welcome to the webinar. We're jumping in and talking about how do you handle crying buyers. We're going to talk about upset agents, and we're going to talk about buyer love letters and NAR's stance on that and what's actually happening in the real world and all those good things. If we can get through all that in like 30, 40 minutes, it'll be I'll be impressed. So this is Emotional Gymnastics for Real Estate Agents. We do this every 2 weeks, kind of the, I won't say the softer side, because there's nothing soft about how to handle crying agents and upset agents today. This is gonna be a deep one, but it's more the emotional side rather than the tactical of like, what are the sales techniques? What are the marketing techniques? This is the emotional intelligence component. So I have two amazing co-hosts here with me, Janki Patel, who is from the Bay Area, California. How long have you been in business for, Janki?
Oh my God. I've been in business for about 17 years here in California and another 10 years in New Jersey before we moved here.
So a lot of experience. And Priyanka Johri, who is in Houston, Texas, who loves dogs more than people.
Yes. Always.
Yes. And that's why she loved my little boy when he passed by. Oh, baby.
But also a very experienced real estate agent, interesting background and career. We all have slightly different viewpoints, but we overlap on some things, disagree on others. Let's start off with, because Priyanka, you're the one who suggested this one on how do you handle crying buyers? This is an interesting market that we are in. It's rare that I would think about wanting to do a webinar about crying buyers, but I think this is the perfect time to do one like that. So if you guys are in the chat or on Facebook, if you have questions or stories you want to share, or things you want to add or ask us, please jump in the chat. Let us know what market you're in, what questions you got. Priyanka, what made you bring up this thing about handling crying buyers?
Right now, I'm doing more listings and I'm telling my buyers to just stay on the sidelines and not to buy. So I got a call from a buyer who had lost an offer on one of my listings. And he was like, what if I use you as an agent? And we have lost so many offers and our agent is not doing the good job and they're not helping. And that's why we lost. I was like, no, you didn't lose because your agent is not doing their job, his or her job. You lost because your offer wasn't strong enough. And they were just like, what happens if we come and use you as a realtor? Will we be able to get the home? And it's like, no, that's not how it works. I work for the seller. I already have a client. You will never be my client. I can fill out a paperwork for you if you want to make an offer, but you negotiate for yourself. And if you're going to negotiate, you're not going to get my listing because I'm negotiating for the top price for the buyer. And they were just not understanding how that can work. And then another agent posted, I think a couple of days later, like how listing agents are being so selfish and they should be teaching their sellers how they should be accepting the lower offer and how we should be fair to the buyers. And I went on like, no. My job is to get them the top dollar. You don't go in a stock market and tell like stock companies to reduce the price of their stock. And this is the stock for my seller. And my job is to get it sold as high as I can. And they thought that's unethical for listing agents to push the price higher for their seller. And we should really, this was going on back and forth. And we just like, how can you even think about that? But she was convinced that that's what we should be doing.
How is it unethical? How is that unethical? You're doing your job. Your job.
She thinks the sellers are being greedy. And I was like, sellers are not being greedy. I am pushing the price because I can get that dollar. There's a supply and demand. Right now, supply is short. There's going to be a time when I will be telling my seller, you have to accept a lower offer because there's too much inventory.
Right.
So it goes up and down. And our job is to get them what we can at that point, according to the market.
Exactly.
But the agents are not understanding that. They are frustrated. I understand buyers agents are frustrated, but they have to bring their skill level up, right? So I still have buyers that I have a buyer right now under contract. We won the contract. It was multiple offer situation and our offer wasn't the highest one, but we used some strategies and got it done. You have to make a strong offer. When I say the strong offer, it doesn't have to be a top dollar, because I have advised one of my clients to take a second highest offer, not the first highest offer, because the second buyer was the strongest and they had more things in the offer. That's like, this is what we need. forget about that, guys. We would lose $3,000. It was just $3,000 more. So we're going to go with this one. And these are the reasons. And oh, that makes sense. Okay, let's go with this one. Right? So strong offer is the keyword, not the highest offer. I'm trying to get them to the highest price, but I also want a strong buyer.
But as a listing agent, isn't it our responsibility, our fiduciary responsibility to do what is
exactly
what is in the best, what is best for our buyer or our seller, right? So when you are a listing agent, isn't it your fiduciary responsibility to get
100%.
your seller the best, highest and best offer? That
Yep.
is their largest investment, right? One of
Right.
their largest investments. And so
that's it.
Yeah. There's no argument there. I mean,
but just as a framework, guys, this is setting the stage for what's going on in the market, right? So when you talk about like, how do you handle this? Priyanka has a very direct way of saying no, right? Do you handle it the same way, John? I mean, it's rare in our history of real estate. I'd say that there's rare market times when you'll actually have buyers who are calling you up as the listing agent afterwards and calling and crying and complaining. And like, that's not normal. Right?
I have, as a listing agent, I have been asked, like, why did our offer not get accepted? And my only answer to that is, you are not the highest and best. Well, what can we do to help our buyer get the next offer? What did I miss? Where did I miss? And I will let them know that, you know, you're compared to another buyer, this is what the financials said. Well, isn't then the reply to that, the rebuttal to that one is, well, doesn't it matter? It doesn't matter what financial stability my buyer has. Of course it matters, right? Of course it matters, because at the end of the day, if the property doesn't appraise, we need to make sure that there's enough difference in that that the seller buyer has, right?
Here's something interesting. Here's something interesting I heard on another call this morning. I had an agent say she has been having incredible success representing buyers by submitting an offer, not getting accepted, and then following up with that listing agent, following up, because they wrote a strong offer. It wasn't the strongest, but a strong offer. And because so many houses are coming back on the market, she'd get that offer accepted because they didn't want to go back through opening it up again and going through all the offers. It's just like she'd been following up the whole time. So they just popped her right in. Okay. She says you have good success with that. So that's a strategy, but from an emotional intelligence standpoint, the way that when you guys so you guys are talking about, you're on the listing side, depending on how that agent who calls you engages with you, it's going to cause you to either want to do business with them and remember them, or to be like, I do not want to do business with this person. Right. Agreed?
Right. Totally agree.
Yep.
Totally agree.
And then go ahead. No, so I had one buyer's agent who offered me commission, right? So he said, like, I will take 1% less commission and you will make 1% more commission if you will accept my offer. It's straight out bribe. And I just like, no, it doesn't matter. You're offering, my client is already paying me. I don't need part of your commission to accept your offer. My job is to protect my seller. And this is not protecting my seller.
Right.
Right.
I mean,
do you remember the time where we had a market where the title companies were, hey, open escrow with me, and if you have X amount of escrows open with me, you'll get a win a trip with us or whatever? Do you remember those REO days? It seems like those days are not coming back, but sometimes the buyers agents will tend to offer you rebates to where, you know, they're so desperate. That is so, in my opinion, that is so unethical. I think
it is unethical, right?
The right way to go, right?
Yeah.
Find out and learn and get to a level to where you're understanding what the market is and how you can actually educate your buyer to make an informed and good decision on the next one.
Right.
If your buyer is not listening to you, then you need to fire them.
So
you don't waste time.
So here's the question, and every listing agent is going to be different, but what could a buyer's agent do that would actually help build that relationship? Like coming in, because I think it's a fair question to say, what could we do differently next time? I've had listing agents proactively tell me when you do get a notice that says your offer was not accepted. I love when they tell you, hey, you didn't get accepted, and here's, we accepted one significantly higher that did this, that, and the other. It's great to provide that feedback to a buyer. But if
so I provide the feedback because they ask me, I was like, yep, I won't tell them like how much higher or what. I said like, hey, their offer was higher than yours. They are letting us lease back, for a couple of months, giving seller time to find another option, or whatever they have offered. And sometimes it's something that we needed and they said like, okay, we'll do it. Or sometimes they offer something and say, oh, that's interesting. Yeah, that will help our, our seller. Uh, those are the items. It's not just about the price, right? So when buyer's agent calls me and say, tell me what is important for your seller. Is it the price? Is it the lease back? Or is it that? I say, I'm not telling you. What are you willing to offer me? My client wants all three. Why would I give you one option like, oh, give me a higher price or I want all three for my seller. So if you're going to send me a highest strong offer, give me all those options. But I like the buyer's agent who says like, hey, my buyer is very flexible. So if if your seller needs a lease back for a month, 2 months, week, 2 weeks, I have this much option. Like, they don't have to sell the house or they have to sell the house, but they can stay there for up to 60 days. So your seller can have up to 60 days to move out. She's making my life easy, right? And then we will counter. So a lot of time they have said like, this is my highest and best. I know right this moment, but if you get another higher than ours, at least give me a chance to talk to my buyer, because right now this is where buyer is. And I understand that completely. Like, just because a lot of listing agents get upset, like, why didn't you give your highest and best the first time? Because I had buyers who said, this is my highest and best right now, but if they get certain, something higher than ours, maybe we will go a little bit more.
Yeah,
and it happens.
And I totally agree with Priyanka, to where I always make sure, and this is exactly the coaching that I do for my buyers agents, is build the relationship. Jesse, you have no idea and how many webinars I've been to, which I always, and even panels that I've been to lately, that I say, build that relationship. You really want that lead. You really want that seller to convert with you and to sign the listing agreement. What are you doing for them? Why would they use you as their realtor? Build the relationship. It's about, sometimes 90% of our 90% of our community of real estate agents forget that we're in the relationship business, right? So what are we doing to build that relationship, whether it's with a buyer or a seller or a lender, whatever it is? What are we doing to build that relationship? And that's one. And second is, when you build that relationship, you have that trust. People always work with people who they like and trust, right? They will work with people that they like and trust. And so what are you doing to be liked? What are you doing to build that trust, right? With whether it's a seller or a buyer. Once you have that, even with a buyer, they should be able to say, okay, you tell us the price, you tell us what we need to do, and we will do it and make it happen, right? Because they're trusting you. You are the professional. They're trusting you. It shouldn't be them making the shots of the price. We will offer only this much because this is the highest we can go. Well, guess what? Your offer is not going to get accepted.
Right. And it's the same things with the with building relationships with the agent on the other side. Agents like to work with agents that they like and they trust.
Exactly.
And even though the listing agent won't necessarily go out of the way to say, hey, I'm going to tell you to take an offer versus another, seller take one offer versus another just because they like the agent. Sometimes they do directly do that. And sometimes it's more at a subtle level, right? If your offer is very similar or is the same, they're going to recommend the one that they had a better relationship with the agent on.
Right. I totally agree with that. And here's another thing that I also, say to people who say, oh, I could offer this, and this. When people call me on my listings, and this is something Priyanka just said, when people call me on my listings and say, okay, in order to make this a win-win, what is the seller looking for? Right? Well, you know the market. Tell me what your buyer is willing to offer me. What is your buyer willing to do to get this home? You got to show that initiative. You got to show that enthusiasm, motivation from your buyer, not you as much, your buyer. So is your buyer willing to give us a rent back? Is it going to be free rent back? What is the highest and best they can offer? And what are they actually approved for? Not just a fake number and add in a contingency, right? I've seen those contingencies being slipped in as well. So,
and they are coming. Like, we have offers where, like, no appraisal, or we will do appraisal, and if price is low by like 15,000, we'll pay from the out of pocket. But if it's 25,000 lower, then no. And I'm fine with that. Like, they are willing to take the risk up to a certain ceiling. Inspection reports, so it's like, oh, if it's minor things that come up, we are not gonna even ask for the repairs. If it's something major, which I completely understand, right? So, like, if it's a major expense of 20,000, I don't want buyer my buyer to do it. So why would I expect somebody else's buyer to? But all those small things, and they're also relationship building that you're talking about. Like one of my buyers recently got the offer accepted because we built that relationship with the listing agent and the seller. And it was related to the dogs. So
There
they took
you
our
go.
offer over
Find
other.
find something that is a common thread. Once you find that one commonality, then
Right.
everything else is just like,
All right, so let's talk about this. And I don't know how deep we want to get on this webinar, right? Buyer love letters, because what you're talking about finding a commonality, right, ties into the world of buyer love letters. NAR came out with a stance. Probably most people watching this have seen this. I imagine you've seen it. If not, Google it. You can go read the actual thing from NAR. Was it maybe a year ago, 6 months ago? They came out and they said, we do not approve of sending buyer love letter, meaning we do
you're
not approve,
bribing them.
right? We do not approve of sending any personal details about a buyer in order to persuade a seller to accept your offer, because it could be a fair housing violation. And I totally get where they're coming from. At the same time, I see them on the listing side often, and I know agents still often use them. What do you guys want to say in terms of how are you finding commonalities without necessarily violating the, using buyer love letters, getting yourself in trouble? How are you guys doing this? What are you seeing?
So letters are from buyers to sellers. And my clients always say I have a split personality. When I'm representing them from a sales side, I act completely different. When I'm representing them from a buyer side, I act completely different. And my advice is completely different, when I'm selling their home or when I'm helping them buy a home. So when I'm listing agent and I'm selling their home, when we are signing the listing agreement, I tell them like a lot of people try to send the letter. My job is for you to make a not emotional but financial decision. So I want to protect you from all the emotional upheaval that goes along with the selling of the home. So my advice is that you do not read or accept buyers' love letters or buyers' letters when they send it to you. And they say, what do we need to do? It's like, you need to tell me that you do not want those letters to be presented, and we are going to put it in the listing agreement. So I can tell the buyer's agent, if they send one, that I'm not giving it to you. And they just say, oh, great. Yeah, let's do it. That makes sense. So when buyer's agents are fighting with me, like, you can't stop it. Buyer's writing, you have to present it. And I want a signature of this. It's in my listing agreement. They do not want to accept. So it's already been taken care of. It's not, I'm not going to ask them now. It has already been decided. But when I'm as a buyer's agent taking my clients, I was like, write a letter. Why do you love this house? Because I want to know too. So every time I take a buyer on, I tell them, I am going to show the homes that you think you like. There are going to be times where I'm going to be standing there and telling you you're not going to buy this house, though you love it because of whatever reason. It's overpriced, it's a wrong area. House is great pool, but it's backing up to the back, street, very busy street. It's like whatever the reason. And if you're still fighting with me, then I know you love the house, right? So I want you to make a completely emotional decision about this is my home, and I will take care of the financial side, negotiating it, or telling you like why you shouldn't be buying it. So completely two different approaches. And I make my buyers to write letters every time. And recently we have won two listings, like from the buyer side, we have won our offers. Both were presented with, and listing agent did not stop me from sending them. They actually said, oh, my seller loved your letters, and that's why you guys, and I was like, great. So
They're
that
effective.
tells you like they work, they do work,
They
but they
do. They
work. So as
do.
a listing agent, you do not want your seller to be in a situation that they are making an emotional decision. It's like, oh, I love this family versus other one kind of thing. But
Right.
you take advantage of it if somebody else is letting you to. Your job is to, yeah, go ahead.
So I agree with you, Priyanka. On one of my listings, we received about 15 offers. It went from 1.3 all the way to 1.550. And one of the buyer's agents was my daughter. Okay. And
How
the
did you handle that?
I did not, you know what? I'm being really honest with you. I did not tell her the price, although she tried. In the middle of the night, she would come in my room, and I'm like, yep, nope, I see you coming. And trying to get into my email, right? And it was fun. It was
Right,
fun playing this game with her of not really giving the number or not really
right.
giving, because I have to treat her as equal. But to be very truthful to you, she did win it. She goes, as a mother, give me advice. What do I do? And I said, well, as a mother, as your team leader, this is the advice I give you. You can write a buyer's letter. You can write a letter to the buyer, to the seller, and let them tell the seller why they like the home so much. And I will present it if they want to see it. Although in the listing agreement it does say they don't want to see it, I can let them know, hey, I have the package here. If you want to see it, good and well. If you don't, it's totally up to you. My job is to deliver it to you, right? So that's done and over with. Every offer that we got was very, very close. So what differentiated her to win the offer? When I was negotiating, I gave the permission to anyone to call in, and any agent to call in while I am actually presenting the offers, and say what they wanted to say. If there was anything they wanted to say to the seller directly, I left that gate open, and nobody called. Okay, this was on the listing agreement. I mean, this was on the MLS confidential remarks. Call me. I will be sitting with the seller at this time. Nobody called. Guess who called? My daughter. She called. She called and said, I just want to let you know I am the buyer's agent. I will not take too much of your time. I want to let you know my buyers love, love, love the home, and they're willing to go higher if needed. And I just wanted to let you know they've got enough money. All their financials are right there. I just wanted to introduce myself and let you know this is who I am. I'm not just someone on paper, but I wanted to kind of make a connection and let you know this is who I am. Do you know how impressed these sellers were?
Yep.
And they said, okay, well, have her match the highest offer. And the
Right.
highest offer was 20,000 more. I called Simran back and I said, can you match the highest offer? And she said, absolutely. I will get on it right away. Within 10 minutes, she called. That is urgency that was shown by the buyer, not the realtor
Right.
only, right? So that's why we accepted her offer. But there is a way. And when you let everyone know a certain thing and nobody does it, nobody calls during that time and stands up for the buyer, the one that does makes an impression, right?
Right.
Let's
So it
talk.
happened. Yeah, go
Hey,
ahead.
Priyanka.
So similar experience. One of my listings, seller was at the house because she was meeting one of the contractors, and buyer walked in, and they made a really big impression with my seller because they said, we love the house, we do this, like, they spent extra time. And when she called me, I said, nope, you're not going to make an emotional decision. You're not falling in love with these buyers. So I know that they are sending an offer. The agent called me and said, we are sending an offer, but we are going to choose the best offer. And after all the offers have come in, she looked at everything. This offer was not the highest. And she asked me, like, do you want to contact the realtor and ask them if they can match our highest offer? And I asked her, do you want me to ask for highest and best? Or do you want me to just give them the number? She's like, no, counter it to those people and see if they will match, and counter it what this highest and best is. And that's what we did. And this other buyer said, okay. And they got the house. And this was an emotional decision because seller met that buyer, just happened to be, it wasn't planned or anything, but she fell in love with them. And then buyer, just because they're just like, oh, this is a number. Okay.
Right.
And something that Janki just said, but you just illustrated also, Priyanka, when Janki said something about it demonstrated urgency on the side of the buyer, right? If you're on the listing side, what you're looking for is you're looking for someone who's going to stick. So to tie this into kind of the emotional intelligence component of this, I always think about the game poker. I don't know if any of you guys are poker players, right? But if you're playing poker with someone and you make a bet, right? You're saying, I'm making a bet, and you're looking at your opponent. If they quickly come back and they say, yeah, I'll match it, I'm going to raise it. It sets off this image of like, ooh, they must have something. Maybe they're bluffing, maybe they don't, but you get this feeling. Even if someone doesn't consciously think through it from a psychology standpoint, if you're a seller and you come back to the other agent, you say, hey, can you guys do X, Y, Z? You want you want your buyer to respond quickly and to definitively say, yep, going to do it, because it shows that intention. It shows that urgency. You guys agree with that? I see you nodding your head.
Yeah, I totally agree, because what she did is she set her clients up saying, hey, there is a time between 5 and 6 p.m. that Janki will be presenting offers, and she has given permission to buyers agents to call in at that time. And so can you be on standby in case I have to call you? And so they were on standby, and they picked up a phone and they said, yes, definitely, because she knew how to set the right expectation with the buyer as well and show that urgency to the seller. And of course, at the end of the day, when the closing date happened, of course, there was such a warm experience, not only with the letter. So guess what? It wasn't the letter that made them pick these buyers. He read the letter after he got the offer accepted. He says, "Can I please read the letter?" And I said, "Absolutely." He read the letter, and on the closing date, he looked at the letter, and he was with the seller and the buyer. At key exchange, the seller said they wanted to be there. I said sure. They wanted to show the house around. Sure. Obviously, the buyer's agent, the seller's agent, everyone was there. Well, guess what? The seller took that letter out and said, "I did not read this letter until after I got the offer accepted, because I was coached into not reading the emotional side and not getting emotional. But you really made me emotional, because this is where we made a fortune, and I wish you the best." You know, that was the emotional side coming out from the seller and the buyer, right? So they did make a connection, but they made it afterwards, right? So again, it's how you coach them, guide them, and educate your buyer and your seller.
Yeah. And no matter how, for some people, we do our best to remove emotion from this process, it is a home, which is very emotional for most people.
It is their home, exactly.
It
And
is
that's
their
why we
home.
need to protect them, right? Because they are going to make an emotional decision. It is their home.
And it is their largest investment, right? One of their largest investments that are making, and they want to make an informed decision. So our job as realtors is not to have this bidding war, and it's a strategy, right? Oh, I'm not going to tell you this. I'm not, let's make it to where both parties are win-win, but we got to take care of our own, our urgency and ethics lies towards who we're representing. Simple as that.
Yeah. So think about, guys, if you have any other tips that you can, any other tips that you can share in terms of how do you handle high emotions? How do you help people to separate? I got one quick story while you guys are thinking about what other tips you could share with the crew watching. But we had a buyer and did not coach the buyer to do this, right? Buyer on themselves decided to go and drop I think it was like a bundt cake or some type of cake
Oh,
off
wow.
at the seller's house. And I heard this is one of the agents on our team had a client who did this. And I heard this, and at first thought was I cringed. I was like, I can't believe they went and dropped a cake off at the house with a note. And like, oh man, like we had no idea. They just did it and then told us later. They're like, hey, I didn't know if they told us if the listing agent told me that they dropped a cake off. And
Oh,
the seller, and this could go either way, right? I'm like, oh, I'm cringing. The seller loved it,
yeah.
accepted their offer, which was like 10 grand less than the highest offer because they just, so you never know, right? It's one of those things that I can't counsel people to recommend, especially as an agent. You can't tell your clients, go drop a cake off. But like
Mhm.
sometimes your clients get crazy ideas and sometimes they work, who
It
knows?
has happened to me in 2014. Somebody
Yeah.
has actually dropped the cake off at my seller's door and they threw it away. They said, we don't even know if it's poison.
Right.
Oh my goodness. Wow.
I
That's
was
what I
like,
was
it won't be
expecting.
poison. Why will they bring you a poison cake? It's like, no, we just like, this is freaky because they thought like this is just too far.
Yeah. That's what I was expecting to have.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah.
So do you guys think of any other tips you want to share? Anything else that you think would be helpful for people dealing with high emotions?
For me, I meditate. Jesse, Priyanka, I meditate. For me, that is my secret weapon. I try to calm my mind down as much, but sometimes you have no control, especially when you're growing so rapidly in all directions in business. So what I do, my secret weapon would be how to handle those emotions is to not just spiral down into it. Just remember, you are the gatekeeper for the seller and the buyer. We're realtors, but we're gatekeepers. We're there to protect them, guide them, educate them, and that is in our logo as well: education, guidance, and knowledge for all. Right? And you got to do your part as a realtor, is to educate, guide, and really share market knowledge with them, or whatever knowledge you want. But the best thing is, if you are emotional, they're going to see straight through you. And the way you control your emotion is do what you can do to calm yourself down. Whether it's go for a walk, do something mental and emotional for yourself before you pick up that phone and go crazy. I used to do that. you know, for the past week, I did not meditate. And this morning I meditated. And I'm like,
Feel
I got
better.
to be in control.
And so I love that you have as a framework, you have the meditation, which if you get that call from a crying buyer or from a flipped out agent, and it catches you off guard, you're already set with the groundwork to be in that state. Something I just learned recently, actually from a kid's book. I was listening to an audiobook with my son on a road trip. And it was they dropped in some really good emotional regulation tips in this book. I was like, it's a novel about fantasy stuff, and I'm just like, wow, they're really like brainwashing the kids here with some cool stuff. So there was a character that anytime something stressful would happen, just surprise the person, he had been trained to take a deep breath in and hold it for a count of 4 and then slowly release it to then be able to like take in all his surroundings. He was like a knight in a shining armor sort of character. Like, what a cool technique for realtors,
You
right?
know, my 4-year-old is he's a 4-year-old, 4 or 5-year-old nephew. This past week, I went to go spend some time with him on a Sunday night, and we were playing some of these word games, and I'm like, I can't get this word. I only have 10 seconds. He's like, Foy, take a deep breath in, take a deep breath out, and I'm like looking at him going, wow, where did you learn that from? It felt good to hear him say that. It was really sweet of him to say that. But again, emotions are a big thing, a big part of the buyers and the sellers are emotional as it is. If you're going to be an emotional wreck, what good are you to them?
Why do you get emotional? Because you're feeling out of control. So
Yes.
take back control, right? And how do you take back control? So if I'm losing offers, I go what Jesse said and ask other people like, hey, why did we lose the offer? How close we were, and what could we have done? Most of the realtors, if you ask them nicely, are going to tell you, say, I'm so sorry, Priyanka, you guys were close, but da 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 da. And then I go back and explain to my buyers like, hey, we were close. So next one we can get it, but these are the reason that we lost. Remember we talked about it, or maybe like, hey, we did not think about it, but seems like this is important to sellers. How about in next offer we strategize and come up with these things, and
Right.
it works, right? So I think the emotions is we get emotional when we are out of control, but if we bring our skill level up and start taking control and learn from those things instead of getting emotional, it's like, okay, I lost the offer, why and what we can do better next time. That will make us feel better. The emotion gets out because like, oh, now we have a plan, so
Right.
next time we are not going to lose it.
Right.
But if
And
we
walk
keep doing
away.
the same thing, then we are going to keep getting emotional, because if you're making the same offers and you keep losing, and agent is not telling the buyer like what we can do better, or buyer is not listening, it's like, no, this is how we are going to do it, it's not going to work.
Right. And walk away from the situation, and come back. That's what, my buyers agents have been so frustrated. They show properties over the weekends, and it seems like that the buyer is not willing to go. And I said, well, guess what? Put in the offer, because you do owe a due diligence to them. Let them know your offer is not going to get accepted at this price. Go through the cycle.
Like
I let them know, go
sometimes
through
they have to experience it.
they have to experience it. They have to understand that. And you know what? When I talked to that buyer, you know what the buyer said to me? Saying, you've got an amazing buyer's agent, Janki. Maybe we just need to go through the process. And my mother-in-law needs to realize that she's going to lose out on this home, but let her go through the process. And then
Yep.
the next one. And I said, well, remember, that might not be the next one. You're going to compare this one to every home. Is that what you want to do? Yeah. Let her realize it, because then she'll have to go 100,000 over asking.
Yep.
100,000 more than what she's doing right now. So sometimes you just have to let it be and let them go through the process.
Yeah.
I'd never heard that before, Priyanka. But I love that. It makes sense. You're feeling emotional because you feel out of control,
Out of
right?
control.
It's a
That's
really
when I
good
feel
reframe.
emotional. Mhm.
It's a really good reframe, and I think you can teach that to your clients as well, right? If your clients start to feel emotional, it's a really easy thing to explain, and then to work backwards into a strategy to help them feel like they have some more power and control.
Yep.
Yeah. And one of my sellers who's actually going to be moving out first week of June, and they want their home on the market by June 27th because they have work to do in the home. They felt like, oh my God, Janki, are we going to find a replacement home? How is this going to work? And that was when I don't need to get crazy emotional and say, oh yeah, oh my God, there's no inventory. What am I going to do for you? No. Take control back and say, you know what? We go above and beyond for our clients. We can call Circle Prospect. We can do so much for you, right? So hang tight, focus on the job that you're doing right now, this moment. You've got a lot to do. So let's get you ready to pack. Do you need packing boxes? So I diverted her mind into thinking more of a stress level and worry, some into thinking, okay, I got to do this, and this. Do I need boxes? Mentally, I shifted her mind into going and packing, right?
I love that
That's what
shift.
I do, because I tell my clients like, what do you mean if you don't find a house? Okay, if you don't find a house, I'll move you in one of my Airbnbs. So you have a roof over your head. Let's go list it.
Yeah.
And that, like we say it in a joke and fun, but they know that we have a backup plan, that they won't be homeless. Like if we sell their home, we get them the top dollar, but they can't. And a lot of my clients, like yesterday, I advised one of my clients, it's like, sell your home, move you into an apartment for 6 or 7 months, and then we are going to buy when inventory starts to swell up. Because everybody is right now like, oh my God, my neighbor got this much. I want to sell my house. I'm getting those calls. So inventory is going to swell up and prices are going to adjust. So we will buy at that time. A lot of my buyers is just like, stay on the sideline. I am one of those realtors that says like, if you own a home, do not sell it, make it an investment property. So a lot of my clients, they buy a next home and convert the other home into a rental, right? So I'm telling them like, hey guys, we need to think about it. If you're gonna not sell it and you wanna buy a house, let's wait until next year because right now prices are too high. Most probably it will be better next year. But if you're gonna sell your home, then we're gonna sell it now, move you into one of your existing rentals, and then wait for next year to buy a property at a better price. We are just coming up with different strategies.
Yeah. And this might be a
You
good
look
way to
confused, Jesse.
No, I love it. I said this might be a good way to kind of pull it together as we wrap up here in a few minutes. Um, I love this It's the sense of confidence you guys have combined with the actual strategies. I was on a call with I have to give credit to my friend Aaron Drussel, who gave this analogy the other day. Picture if you got on an airplane and you got on the airplane and you're flying in the air and all of a sudden hit some sort of turbulence. If the captain gets on the loudspeaker and goes, we're hitting some turbulence. I've never really done this before. I have no idea how to handle this. Can someone come up here and help? Maybe you would be freaking out. And as realtors, it's one of these things that when we're in this market, I hear so many agents that agent to agent, we're complaining or we're frustrated or we're talking about, and then that starts to spill out over into our conversations with clients and it freaks them out.
Okay,
You got to be the stable force.
Right. And so let me talk to you a little bit about the energy that you're putting out there. Even if you're talking realtor to realtor and you're just venting, get it out of your system and call it a day. Do not sit on it because that energy is going to infuse and actually spill over to your buyer or your seller. Right? Think about this. Whatever emotions you attract, there are people out there that actually suck your energy, sort of thing, right? And that's what you need to stop doing is you need to, even as realtor to realtor conversations, if you make it all negative, guess what you're going to get? Because you focus so much on negativity, that's all you're going to get is negative people in your life. So why don't you change that and say, you know what? I enjoy my business. I love doing this. It's a challenge and it's a good challenge to have because guess what? I'm learning through the process of how to handle that challenge, right? If you continue focusing on the positive side and even realtor to realtor talking about it positively, it is definitely going to continue to remain positive. And that's what, whenever I talk even to other realtors and they ask me, hey, how's your business? I can't get any of my offers accepted. Well, guess what? You'll never will if you continue thinking that. So stop thinking that. Just say, yeah, absolutely. I'm doing great. My offers are getting accepted. There's some challenges here and there, but you know what? I'm learning through them. The words you say matters.
100%.
So a lot of times I'm telling my buyers, this home was not meant to be. This is the best thing that happened to you.
Right.
Your offer did not get accepted because there's a better home out there that is yours. And let's go find it.
Right.
And you won't believe how many times they just say, but I love this one. But next morning they're calling us like, let's go, start looking, find me that home that you were telling me about. They really believe it. Because when I say it, I believe it and I say it with conviction.
Right.
And yesterday, one of my clients that I have been working with is a commercial client, finally got the keys yesterday. And it has been over almost 1.5 years. And she said, Priyanka, you inspire me, but you also tire me. Because you keep going and going. So that's the best thing anybody has ever said to me, that you just keep going and going.
Yeah, that is a real good one. Wow.
Yep.
I love it. That's hilarious. But I love the conviction. I love it. Really is a good reframe. I'm going to steal that, Priyanka. I'm totally using that with my next client who doesn't get an offer accepted. All right, guys, we got like a minute or two left. Any last thoughts you want to leave people with? Anything else? I think we covered a lot of ground. I think we covered all the ground we wanted to cover on this call.
That's okay. I just want to tell everybody, market changes. So wait, just because the market is too high and your buyers can't find the homes, it's going to change. And next year we will be as a listing is saying, do you have any buyers? Can you bring them to us? So don't get frustrated. And market has to change. Otherwise it will be, if everything is going at the same level, nothing changes. We want those changes. So it happened in 2014 when everything was really high and then market came down. It's going to happen again. Don't get frustrated. This is not the end of the world.
Yeah, well, here's the thing, in California, that's sadly going to be a challenge, especially here in the Silicon Valley, because Janet Yellen just said last week, I believe she's raising the interest rates possibly. So again, my advice to everyone out there is stay focused. Don't stress so much where you're infusing that stress or spewing that stress over your clients. One thing to remember is everyone has emotions. How you handle it matters. And what you do to handle them also matters. So when your buyers are emotional, your sellers are emotional, you got to be the one that is standing straight and, firm and confident, saying, we can do this. Let's get this done. Let's stay focused on our end goal.
I love it. Well, thank you guys for being here. Kathy put in the chat, thanks for the gold nuggets. Thank you for listening, Kathy.
Absolutely.
I hope you share them with your crew, with the team, and anybody else. I hope they're useful day to day. That's why we do these things. That's why we talk every couple of weeks. If you guys have a topic of things you want us to go over on the emotional intelligence side of real estate, let us know. We will chat about it.
Just like hanging out with you guys.
Yeah.
It's like hanging out with you guys too.
Right.
I haven't been on much lately, but hey, I will make the commitment of coming as much as I can. So thank you guys.
Awesome. The replay is up on our YouTube channel. If you're here on the Zoom with us, you can click it in the chat box. Go to the LCA YouTube channel. Make sure you subscribe. There are so many good webinars that you can. So if you ever need to chill out, you're like, man, this is stressful, I need to take a break. Go pick any webinar. Go listen to it. It'll help reset your brain.
Yes.
All right. Have a good day, guys.
Bye, guys.
Happy weekend.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.
See you next time.
Thank you.